Psych Perspectives, GeoFox here, and we are going to be discussing additional things that are constantly happening, especially around First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, freedom to protest, what have you. Um, I want to discuss Trump's administration accusing pro-Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil of hiding info on his green card application. This, in my opinion, is a blatant violation of First Amendment rights, our constitutional rights, freedom of speech, freedom to protest. Because essentially, what's occurring here is anybody that doesn't support Donald Trump, his administration, anybody that disagrees with his administration, um, you are going to be attacked. You might be, snatched up by ICE, which at this point is being used as his private Gestapo, as far as I'm concerned. So I want to bring this up. And again, those of you who know, I am very much free Palestine. So I'm not here to make it seem like I'm, not going to be talking about social issues and how to this very day over 200 children were murdered this past week in Palestine by Israel. Okay. And mind you, they're supposed to be having a ceasefire, but obviously that's not happening because the USA continues to fund terrorists and fund genocide. So I'm just going to keep calling it out regardless. So the Trump administration, after accusing Columbia University graduate and pro Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil of being a Hamas sympathizer without providing any evidence, now says Khalil's deportation is justified because he did not reveal connections to two organizations in his application to become a permanent U.S. resident, an argument his attorneys call weak. First of all, you're expecting people that are Palestinian to not be pro Palestine is ridiculous. Okay. You're literally killing and murdering their families, you're destroying their country. You are committing genocide against the Palestinian people, and then you're expecting Palestinians that are abroad, for example, right now, Palestinians that are living in the USA, they're not supposed to be speaking out against the atrocities that's impacting their country and their families and communities is absolutely ridiculous. And then it's also hypocritical to listen to folks that are supporting Israel, right? Because these are the same people that will bring up the Holocaust while they're actually committing another Holocaust against the Palestinian people. So at some point, the hypocrisy needs to be brought out. I am sick and tired of this mess, okay? Not to mention, Trump's own supporters are proudly neo Nazis. So it's odd, to hear he is supporting Israel and his supporters are actual neon. A lot of them are neo Nazis. Um, is anyone noticing like what is really going on here? Like I have literally done community canvassing and political canvassing, and I've knocked on doors where literally you will see a flag. You'll have the American flag, a Nazi flag, an Israel flag, and a Don't Tread on Me flag in the same property, on the same house. And it's just a litany of confusion. It's like, what? But this is what we're dealing with, okay? Khalil failed to state on his green card application he had previously worked for the Syria office of the British Embassy in Beirut and was a member of the United Nations Relief and Work Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East, or UNRWA. Now, how is um, Granny? I'm doing a video. Um, they need to understand that how is somebody working for a Syria office at the British Embassy a problem? And how is somebody working for the United Nations Relief and Work Agency for Palestine refuge a problem? How is any of these bad jobs or wrong for somebody to do? Okay, like again, do we not send Americans in to do work for the Peace Corps across the world in different countries and continents? Are they going to be considered terrorists too when they come back? Okay. Anyways, the government says the latter a focus of intense criticism from American and Israeli politicians who accuse it of anti-Semitism. Guess what? We have the right to criticize. We don't have to agree with you. We don't have to like you. We can speak out against you. That's our First Amendment right. It's absolutely ridiculous to sit up here and basically tell people if they're not kissing Trump's butt, then somehow they are going to be deported because they're not supporting him. So much for democracy and freedom. Another hypocrisy about this country. You're constantly talking about this being the land of the free, but who is it really free for? Because apparently, if you're not a white, cisgendered, heterosexual, Christian Protestant man who has money, then apparently you don't get to have any of that freedom at all. Okay? Because it's a very small niche demographic of folks that actually get to embody the land of the free in the home of the brave, while the rest of us are constantly being deprived of those same rights. Anyways, Khalil was an unpaid intern. Keep this in mind, an unpaid intern, which a lot of us who have done this type of work have had these types of positions where you're unpaid, but you're doing this work because it's something that's dear to your heart and or it's something related to what you would like to do as a full-time career once you graduate from your degree program. So he was an unpaid intern at the time for the UNRWA in 2023, but was never on staff, a spokesperson, Juliet Thomas, told CNN. Khalil, quote, sought to procure an immigration benefit by fraud of willful mispresentation of a material fact, the government wrote in the brief filed Sunday. Quote, regardless of his allegations concerning political speech, Khalil withheld membership in a certain organization. ... It is a black letter law that misrepresentations in the context are not protected speech. End of quote. Khalil, a negotiator for pro-Palestinian student protesters in talks with Columbia administration over last spring's continuous campus encampment against the Israel-Hamas war, which, again, the terms and the words that we are using, in my opinion, it's not an Israel and Hamas war. Because again, when you look at what's going on here, you have one country that is being overly funded by the USA through American tax dollars to wipe out an entire demographic of people. Not to mention, Israel stole Palestinians' land. It's not the other way around, okay? Not to mention, isn't it odd how in Israel they can have abortions and they can go to school, they can go to college for free, but then your tax dollars are paying for that just for you to not have those same rights in the country? You're in the USA. Can you go to school for free? Can you get an abortion? But yet you can pay for other countries through your tax dollars to have benefits that you don't even have. Welcome to America. Anyways, again, so this was arrested March 8th. Okay, it's going on 3 weeks since Mahmoud Khalil was arrested and has been detained since then by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. U.S. District Judge Jesse Furman and a President Obama appointee has blocked the government indefinitely from deporting Khalil and transferred the case. The Trump administration initially said Khalil was a threat to U.S. security, even though we have an illegal immigrant, Elon Musk, who is literally a threat to all of our security and has all of our information without our consent, and who is a top Trump advisor. citing a law that allows non-citizens to be deported if their presence has potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States. Well, again, is that not Elon Musk? How come he's not being deported? Okay. You're just saying, I'm going to keep calling out the double standards and the hypocrisy. All right. Asked how Khalil had engaged in terrorist activity, okay, Homeland Security Deputy Secretary Troy Edgar told NPR March 13th, quote, I think it's clear or we wouldn't be talking about it, quote, and provided no more details. So, in other words, there is no proof of Mahmoud Khalil being a threat to our national security. Often foreign academics also have been identified for deportation this month as the administration squeezes colleges over pro-Palestinian demonstrations amid a broader immigration crackdown. First of all, freedom of speech, and also people have the right to protest. And college campuses and universities oftentimes are the first areas where people are protesting because guess what? You're actually getting a real education for once instead of being force fed American propaganda. I'm just going to keep it real. Because what do we hear about in our K through 12 oftentimes is how great the country is when it's not, and how, we're supposedly liberating people and fighting for democracy when in actuality we are not liberating folks, and oftentimes we're supporting coups to promote our agenda, thus taking away those countries' rights and freedoms and having the access to pick their own political leadership. Just keeping it real. Khalil's attorney argued the new justification to deport him is weak. Quote, we are not all at all surprised because it's a recognition that the initial charges are unsustainable. Quote, attorney Bahir Azme told CNN. Quote, so they are going with a theory that they must think is more legally defensible. But I just think this doesn't cure the obvious taint of retaliation. Khalil's defense will file a response to the new government allegations by Tuesday afternoon. So by March 25th, Azmi promised in a court filing. In a letter dictated to his attorneys last week, Khalil called himself a political prisoner. And he is a political prisoner. I mean, essentially, him speaking up against genocide is why he is being unlawfully detained and denied his First Amendment rights. So, again, at this point, any of us, including myself, when we make videos discussing what's going on, you attend a rally, a protest, you're not supporting Trump's administration, you're not supporting Elon Musk, what have you. At any given time, any of us can be seen as a threat to the national security and potentially detained, even if you are an American, you're an actual American. And that's something that needs to be brought up. That's a dangerous precedent to set because literally anybody that doesn't agree can be deported or unlawfully detained. Again, y'all are constantly talking about freedom while supporting administrations that are anti-freedom. And if that's the case, just think if we could all have that same setup, because literally if that was the case, I would make it where any type of anti-trans information, hatred, you could be deported. That would be a problem for a lot of y'all because y'all wouldn't be here. If I was the president, I'll be the first to say that. You wouldn't be here. Back to Europe you go because a lot of you aren't even from here. Okay. And what's hilarious about it, and to this very day, is a lot of the white people that are in this country are literally here because of their immigrant ancestors. Okay. I mean, even the current president's family is not originally from the USA. So, I mean, the hypocrisy is just blatantly in our face, the double standards blatantly in our face. But okay, why is the UNRWA controversial? Look, long before Khalil's detention, UNRWA was a lightning rod for American and Israeli politicians who accused the agency of anti Semitic behaviors alongside its humanitarian mission. Now, mind you, it was founded in 1949. It has been the United Nations primary agency for providing aid and relief to Palestinians living in the Gaza and West Bank, as well as other countries, including shelter, healthcare, food, and education. And it's also important to note for the past 22 days, Israel has not allowed any type of relief aid to be brought in. So they're starving people out. People are dying of starvation, malnutrition. People are lacking medical care, on top of the fact that they're dropping continuous bombs and murdering and killing folks left and right who are Palestinian. That's genocide. And this is coming from the same group that constantly wants to bring up the Holocaust to justify why they're committing a Holocaust. I'm just going to keep saying that. And I also want to throw out there are plenty of Jewish people who do not support Israel. That's the other thing that people always leave out as well. Israel last year banned the UNRWA from operating in the country, accusing the organization of spreading anti-Semitism and saying some UNRWA employees, who are mostly Palestinian, participated in the October 7th, 2023 Hamas attack on Israel that killed more than 1,200 people. Yet they have pretty much killed 1,200 people every month, essentially, ever since this happened. So again, I'm just sick and tired of the hypocrisy, the blatant lies, and misinformation. Allegations about the UNRWA workers' involvement in the attack prompted the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris administration to pull U.S. funding from the agency in January 2024. So I also want to highlight, when I make these videos, I'm not up here to praise the Democrats, because the Democrats are also pretty much supporting genocide. It just needs to be said. Okay, in fact, this whole situation took place October 7th, 2023. President Trump wasn't the president. That was under Biden and Harris. So I'm not going to sit up here and make it seem like the Republicans and the Democrats are not doing the exact same thing to the Palestinian people, like they haven't been using our tax dollars to support genocide. They've both have been doing this. So don't come on here trying to make it seem, oh, you only talk about Trump. No, they're all full of SHIT as far as I'm concerned. Okay. And quite frankly, when you look at what's going on currently with the Democratic senators, they don't really seem to do anything for anybody if it's not going to load their pockets with cash. They don't really seem to care about any of our rights. In fact, they don't have a problem with throwing entire demographics that they claim to support under the bus when it comes to lining their pockets with money. Okay? I'm just going to keep it real. And more than a dozen other countries followed suit right after that. President Donald Trump signed an executive order in February cutting off U.S. aid to the organization. Mind you, this had already been done under Biden, okay, in January of last year. UNW or RWA has been reportedly been infiltrated by members of groups long designated as foreign terrorist organizations. This is what our current president, Donald Trump, has asserted. Officials with the UNRWA have denied they are deliberately aiding terrorists and said claims that their facilities have been used for terrorism operations, including the detention of Israeli hostages, should be independently investigated. Quote, dismantling the UNRWA will only deepen the suffering of Palestine refugees. Its Commissioner General Felipe Lazzarini said last month. And again, apparently trying to help Palestinian refugees, receive food and shelter and healthcare access is also you being a terrorist organization. Which I also want to throw out there. Under Trump's administration, they're also trying to say that Habitat for Humanity is a terrorist organization. Anything that is looking to promote social justice equity, diversity, inclusion, freedom and rights for all people and not just white cishet men are now being pretty much deemed as terrorist organizations. Isn't that odd? Hmm. Okay, the judge asked to move Khalil's closer to family. Shortly after his arrest, Khalil, a citizen of Algeria who grew up in a Palestinian refugee camp in Syria, according to his court filings, was transferred to an ICE processing facility in Jena, Louisiana. Does anybody remember the Jena 6? That was in 2005, 2006. So think about it. That's where he was sent. That's the facility that he is being unlawfully detained. So more than 1,000 miles away from the court, the government told a judge detention center in New York was unsuitable because of the facility was dealing with bed bug issues and lack of space. It said in the brief filed Sunday. Khalil's attorneys have asked a judge to order ICE to move him to a facility closer to the court. His attorneys and his pregnant wife, who is a U.S. citizen, judges in the case have not yet ruled on the request, and the Trump administration says the court has no authority in the matter. Khalil's attorney says any question about whether his residency application was properly filed out should be decided by a judge, not unilaterally by ICE. Again, ICE is literally being used as a secret police, similar to what the Nazi Germany did with the Gestapo. Okay, and then Trump pretty much thinks that he is a dictator and he doesn't have to have any checks and balances. Now, mind you, we have three branches of government. So you have your president or your executive branch, you have your judicial branch as well. So there's supposed to be a level of checks and balances. And yet, according to our current president, Donald Trump, and his advisors, that just doesn't seem to exist anymore. Quote, we'll deal with that claim on its own term when the time comes in the immigration court, Osme told CNN. Quote, for now, for purposes of the federal case and his right to bond and ultimately his release from detention, we don't think it undermines our case at all. So I just, again, any of us that are protesting can be in a situation similar to Mahmoud Khalil. So essentially, all of us are Mahmoud Khalil, and more of us, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, religion, culture, what have you, in my opinion, should be speaking out against the unlawful arrest of Mahmoud Khalil. Because that could be any of us. That could be one of us next, and likely will be as we continue to live in this Trump regime, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, and again, people have the right to protest. We literally have our constitutional rights and the First Amendment, in particular, and I want to go over that before I end this video because, like, a lot of people are unaware of their own constitutional rights. So we have the Bill of Rights, okay? And the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment, right, of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peacefully assemble, aka peaceful protests, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And yet, apparently, according to the Trump administration, we don't have those First Amendment rights. And they are literally violating Mahmoud Khalil's First Amendment rights. Information on the First Amendment rights and the Bill of Rights and the U.S. constitutional rights will also be in the description box below. Another thing that needs to be brought up is the Fourth Amendment, okay, and the Fifth Amendment. So the Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their person, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. That's the Fourth Amendment. And then we have the Fifth Amendment. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia. When in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against him, her, themselves, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without a due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So we've got like 3 amendments that are being violated already for Mahmoud Khalil. So I'm just, sharing information um and spreading awareness about what's going on, because again, if you think this isn't going to continue, if you think that you're going to be untouched by what's going on, a lot of you are in for a rude awakening. And unfortunately, this is what this country has been doing to people of color for centuries. And this is why when I hear Donald Trump's slogan, Make America Great Again, again, depending on your marginalized identity, when has it ever been great for you? That really needs to be a question that more people need to ask themselves. Because again, I don't really know how America was great in 1965 when we had Bloody Sunday. I don't know how America was great in 1865 when we finally had decided, you know what, slavery is cruel and unusual and shouldn't be happening. Yet you enslaved an entire race group of people while also killing off the indigenous people and stealing their land. So again, I'm trying to understand, when was this really a great place? Maybe before the Europeans came, perhaps. But anyways, information is in the description box below. Again, yes, these are my opinions. This is my perspective, but I also have data and facts to back up what I'm saying, instead of just talking out the side of my butt like some of the elected officials that we have. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comment box below. If you have information, data, resources that you would like to share with us, please feel free to do so in the comment box below. And as always, I strongly encourage and recommend that you take the time to do your own independent investigation and use your critical thinking skills. Free Palestine and free Mahmoud Khalil.